Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is When the Spirit Says Do. For those in the sanctuary, please sit back and enjoy the hymn, but please do not sing along.
You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 Sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing, oh Lord. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 Spirit says when the Spirit says dance. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you got to dance, oh Lord. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 Spirit says
Thank you for joining us here today in person, and thank you for joining us remotely on Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Pat Kawunder, a member of the board of the church, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from include Alec Peck singing our hymns. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. We invite you to leave your worries and defenses at the door and trust that what happens in worship is inspiring and powerful. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we begin a new day and a new week. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we're here, please keep your masks on and socially distance. We can speak in normal tones, but singing or chanting creates an increased risk of airborne exposure. So we ask you to refrain for the time being. We invite those of you in the sanctuary to sit back and enjoy listening. For those of you at home, sing your hearts out. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. For our call to worship, you are welcome to read with me the mission statement of the church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today, UUCR member Linda Van Voorhis will be reading the sermon, Getting Serious About UUism by Reverend Scott Anderson. Reverend Scott Anderson is a third-generation UU, has a Master of Divinity from Starr King School for Ministry and an undergraduate degree from Lawrence University. He has 48 years of experience in the UU ministry, since being ordained at the First Church of Holton, Maine in 1974, where he began his ministry. Reverend Alexander travels widely within the Unitarian Universalist denomination, speaking, preaching, and offering in-depth workshops on a variety of congregational and faith-related subjects. Over the last 15 years, Reverend Alexander has completed 5 coast-to-coast, 30 days, 120 miles a day, charity bike rides to support local nonprofit agencies working to end local poverty and hunger. This is the description of his sermon today, Getting Serious About UUism. How is arguing with a UU like mud wrestling with a pig? Eventually, you realize the pig likes it. NPR used to have a recurring segment, UU Joke of the Day. We like to portray ourselves in this lighthearted way because we think this should reflect the lack of strict structure which we love, that UUism isn't a religion that needs to be taken seriously. However, when we also describe UUism as laissez-faire spirituality, it reflects a religion which is frivolous and empty. UUism demands challenge to the spirit and moral action as much as any other religion. UUism means accepting responsibility for the spiritual growth of ourselves and our community. We have 2 lightings of sacred flames in our church. The first is the occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. Excuse me. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Capeño, and the Serrano. We, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. Thank you, Bill. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, to be a part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading of the chalice lighting is, we light this chalice. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. We are the church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We care for the earth and work for peace and justice in our time. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who's been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the mic and speak into it directly and clearly so everyone can hear. So do I have a volunteer? I'll pick one of you. Thank you, Bill.
Bill Rowe. In 2004, we were sitting around the sun deck talking, and about 5 of us, and come to find out 2 of us were Unitarians. And so I said, well, where's the Unitarian church around here? Because I hadn't seen one. And he says, well, it's in Riverside, right next to the library. And so we, next time we were in Riverside, we drove by and it was all locked up. But we finally found it open and found out that the church was indeed alive. So, and we've been here ever since.
Thank you. That's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor or an old friend, please raise your hand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. No? Okay. If there's anybody online who would like to introduce themselves. No? Okay. During the service, we have some announcements. During the service, we will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all the information, and it is also available on our website. Joys and concerns. Sharing joys and concerns is one of the important rituals in our community, an opportunity to share milestones, losses, achievements, and experiences with one another. Now that our doors are open again, on the first Sunday of each month, we can both hear from those in the sanctuary and read the contributions we have received. In front of the pulpit, there is a book where you can write your joys and concerns whenever you are here in the sanctuary. For those of you at home, you can send your joys and concerns throughout the month to uuchurchofriverside@gmail.com. Our next joys and concerns will be on February 6th. We are planning to have a book sale during the Lunar Fest. Please bring the books you no longer want, taking up space, for us to sell. Please see Kate if you have some time to help sort through books or are available to help at the sale. The sale will begin next weekend at 11 a.m. on Saturday and 12 on Sunday. It closes at 5 p.m. The Social and Environmental Justice Committee meeting is today in the annex at noon. You can find the Zoom link and more information on the website under Social and Environmental Justice. Our hymn now is Spirit of Life. If you are in the sanctuary, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes, and listen.
Sing in my heart all the stir
sharing our treasure. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is on the church website and also in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage. Amazon cards are also available. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give of their time and talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now come forward, please, to receive the collection? Our next hymn is From You I Receive. Please sit back quietly and enjoy it.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Our meditation today is by reading 594, Principles and Purposes for All of Us. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of each person. We believe that each and every person is important. We affirm and promote justice, equality, and compassion in human relations. We believe that all people should be treated fairly. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement of spiritual growth. We believe that our churches are places where all people are accepted and where we keep on learning together. We affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We believe that each person must be free to search for what is true and right in life. We affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. We believe that all people should have a voice and a vote about the things which concern them. We affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We believe that we should work for a peaceful, fair, and free world. We affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. We believe that we should care for our planet Earth. Now let us pause for a moment of silence. Now I would like to introduce Linda Van Voorhis, reading for us Reverend Scott Anderson's sermon, Getting Serious About UUism. Linda?
All right, we have a problem. It didn't pull up the excuse me here for a minute. A comment about Scott Alexander. We have read multiple sermons by him. I think of all the people that are on the website, he is the most eloquent and expresses a lot of different subjects in a very understandable and heartfelt way. With that, this is Getting Serious About Unitarian Universalism. At one point in her novel, Fly Away Home, American writer Marge Piercy has a mother saying of her daughters, "The girls had been raised Unitarian Universalist, which seemed a nice, sensible compromise between having no religion at all and having to lie about what we believed. Enough religion to be respectable, but not enough to get in the way." Ouch, that hurts. It hurts if, like me, you are proud to be a Unitarian Universalist and strive to be serious about your own religious life. But whether we like it or not, this is precisely what many people from other faith groups think of UUs. Remember the old jokes? Question: what is a Unitarian Universalist? A way station between Methodism and the golf course. What do you get when you cross a Jehovah's Witness with a Unitarian Universalist? Someone who knocks at your door for no particular reason. One old down east Maine fisherman asked another, "Unitarian Universalism, what is that?" To which the other draws back, "Well, the best I can figure it is someone who has no principles and lives by them." I used to laugh when someone told jokes about how laid back and lax we Unitarian Universalists are about our religion. But I'm not laughing anymore. I stopped laughing because I realized how terribly important it is to me to take my religious life seriously. As I reach midlife and approaching my 50th birthday, I find myself increasingly compelled by life's vast spiritual questions and pressing ethical demands. I've stopped laughing because I believe with all my heart and soul this troubled world desperately needs the compassion and saving vision of Unitarian Universalism. I believe people, millions of people of many different cultures and backgrounds, need this transforming faith. I've stopped laughing because we can no longer allow ourselves to be marginalized, ridiculed, or dismissed. Unitarian Universalism will never realize its great potential and mission unless we are, in both reputation and reality, serious religious people. Will you join me now on a journey to explore what it means to get serious about your Unitarian Universalism? We must begin by acknowledging that we UUs are largely responsible for our reputation as a lightweight and soft religion. My colleague, Bill Miller, puts it bluntly. For far too long, we have not taken ourselves seriously. We have offered a haven for those on their way out of institutionalized religion. We have demanded little and received the same. Too many of us have actually espoused the notion that one can believe anything and still be a Unitarian Universalist. We have resisted the strictures imposed by form and structure and embraced the laissez-faire spirituality that has commanded the respect of no one. Stephen Carter, in The Culture of Disbelief, asserts that our society as a whole encourages individuals not to take their religion seriously. In contemporary American culture, religions are more and more treated as just passing beliefs, almost as fads, rather than fundamentals upon which the devout build their lives. What this culture says is if religions become inconvenient, give them up. If you can't remarry because you have the wrong religious belief, well, hey, believe something else. If you must go to work on Sabbath, it's no big deal. It's just a day off. Pick a different one. If you can't have a blood transfusion because God forbids it, no problem, get a new God. And through all of this trivializing rhetoric runs the subtle but unmistakable message. Pray if you like, worship if you must, but whatever you do, do not on any account take your religion seriously. This attitude exerts pressure to treat religion as a hobby. I have been a Universalist Unitarian minister for nearly 25 years. In every congregation I have served, there have been people for whom Unitarian Universalism seemed little more than a casual convenience, an occasional hobby, a peripheral part of their lives. This reality was driven home for me when a parishioner in New Jersey told me that he liked church because it is an interesting and entertaining place to be on Sunday mornings when I'm not away skiing. Other ministers and denominational statistics have painted the same picture, same sad picture. Far too often, we have had a low participation, low expectation, low commitment religion. But something new is stirring in our movement. The baby boom generation is now flocking to UU churches looking for a serious, spiritual, transforming, ethical religion. There is a hunger for Unitarian Universalism that gives and expects much. But as we try to respond to this demand for serious religion, we bump up against the casualness that has defined us in the past. Regrettably, many people used to be attracted to Unitarian Universalism because it seemed to be the religious path of least resistance. I will never forget the long conversation I had with a man following his wife into a congregation I was serving. He was having trouble understanding the Unitarian Universalism way of religion. A lapsed and angry Roman Catholic, he did grasp the freedom part about Unitarian Universalism, refusing to impose any dogma or moral absolutes on individuals. He felt great to be liberated from all that encrusted orthodoxy. But having been raised in a church where beliefs were imposed from above, not nurtured from within, he couldn't grasp how UUism, like any serious religion, continually challenged each person to be careful, authentic, compassionate, and responsible living. With more than a little sarcasm, he said to me, "Hey, this religion is great. It's a cakewalk, a Sunday walk in the park. No dogma, no catechisms, no confessional booths, no internal damnation or sin. I like this. If I join this church, I can lean back and believe whatever I want to." No matter how hard I tried to explain what a demanding, disquieting, lifelong journey it is to be seriously on the Unitarian Universalist path, this guy just couldn't get it. Like so many come-outers in our movement, he fixated on our freedom, Thank God, at last a church where I don't have to pretend to believe all the stuff I don't believe. He missed altogether the haunting challenge and demanding tension written into the fourth UU principle. Ours is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. To be a UU is to spend a lifetime seeking reality and truth, and to live in this world in an ethical and principled way. There is nothing casual or easy about that. My colleague, Charles Magistro, speaks to this point. I'm amused by the view that it's easy to be a Unitarian Universalist. It's as easy to be a UU as it is to search the murky waters of life without sure charts to guide us or any guarantee we will find a safe port in which to put down the anchor. It's as easy to be a Unitarian Universalist as it is to overcome the natural fear of the unknown and venture forth with nothing to sustain us, save our zest for living and our hunger for new experience and new knowledge. Our way in religion is not the way of ease. We are called to be sailors. For many worlds exist waiting to be discovered, and not the least of them are within ourselves. It takes much persistence, courage, and curiosity to look into our own depths, to come to terms with the twin mysteries of being alive and having to die, to see ourselves in new and larger ways without being dishonest about our limitations. We have only begun to discover our potential. Unitarian Universalism does not give you freedom from religion. It gives you freedom for religion. Being a UU does not give you freedom to believe anything you want. It gives you rather the freedom to search for and find those beliefs from which your heart and soul cannot escape. Being a UU means searching for your own defining religious principles and then allowing yourself to be captured by them. Actively practicing our free religion has an inescapable quality about it. The only choice involved is whether or not to take your emergent personal truths and principles seriously enough to actually live them on a daily basis. Once you find your moral and spiritual guideposts, and these evolve over the years, you have no choice but to follow the path that your guideposts define. This faith tradition, which trusts the integrity and worth of each individual, sets you free, not so you can casually dabble in religion, but so you can become, as Stephen Carter put it, intoxicated by an authentic personal faith you cannot help but live, serve, and cherish. For some UUs, this means choosing a particular demanding faith stance, living as a committed Christian or Buddhist or humanist or neo-pagan. For others, finding authentic religion paths is more an eclectic individual process, gradually involving a working set of authoritative beliefs and principles. Some of the fundamental religious and spiritual sources of authority they use in this process are the 7 principles articulated in the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, the hundreds of years of our liberal faith tradition, including the writings and deeds of our UU, in quotes, saints, the traditional scripts and ethics of the world's many great faith traditions, most especially those of the Judeo-Christian tradition from which Unitarianism and Universalism sprang, the consensus of human history and law, the common moral sense and persistence, conscious of the individual arising out of his or her direct experiences with the world. Many UUs have come out of conservative faith traditions, hurt and angry about the spiritual damage they suffered at the hands of the religion of their childhoods. At first, they used precious spiritual time, space, and energy, proclaiming everything they don't believe, all the spiritual practices they no longer need, and all the ethical restraints they refuse to obey, all the forms and rituals they can't tolerate. This stage of declaring oneself free of old destructive religious beliefs is both necessary and understandable. One first liberates oneself from what I do not believe before one begins to move towards new, authentic, life-giving beliefs. Although a few UUs get stuck spiritually by wallowing in negative rebellion from their religious past, most, sooner or later, begin using the freedom that comes with being a UU to get serious about discovering what they do believe, finding the ethical and moral principles that inform their living, and engaging in spiritual practices that feed their souls and energize them for careful, responsible living. Freedom, like the air we breathe, said philosopher Santayana, is necessary for existence, but insufficient for nourishment. The UU minister, Jim Brewer, further reminds us, freedom demands responsibility to others and life. It is not necessary, and it's not enough to be merely disciples of freedom. We also must be disciples of intelligence, sensitivity, understanding, and love. It is not enough to be free from intolerable constraints, but to be free for what is good and true and beautiful. May we realize that freedom is not an end of our religion, but in reality, only its beginning. Being a UU is about much more than the opinions and beliefs you hold. It is about the way you live every day. Our tradition has always affirmed that true religion is about deeds, not creeds. UUs are fond of saying, "Don't tell me what you believe, show me how you live." As one minister pointedly put in his sermon title, if being a Unitarian Universalist were against the law, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Taking your Unitarian Universalism seriously means that your beliefs, principles, and values should be visibly present in your life. People around you should be able to see your religion in all the big ways and little ways, in what you say and do in relationships, in how you make decisions and solve problems, in the institutions and causes to which you give time and money, in how you care for and serve other living things, most especially people. As my colleague Robert Swain says, faith is not enough, nor belief. Living what you believe is the principle of honesty put into practice. Unitarians and Universalists over the centuries thus have been active out of all proportion to our numbers in seeking justice, struggling against oppression, and making this a better world to live in. The first dimension of getting serious about your religious life, this unashamed liberal evangelist will tell you, is talking the talk, taking the trouble when appropriate and respectful to share with others, your family and friends, neighbors and coworkers, what's your religious belief and why you believe it. But true religion, transforming, saving, compassionate religion, is then about walking the walk. It's about rolling up your sleeves and genuinely living a theology of dirty hands. It's about standing up for your principles, living your values, and serving others. Such religion, unlike the lackluster UUism Marge Piercy describes in that book we read in the first, very much gets in the way. It is not convenient to live by one's most dearly held principles. There are many costs and sacrifices that are required. True religion limits, tests, and challenges the individual. It is often anything but fun. For in this broken world of ours, it is hard to serve justice, difficult to work for peace and equality, demanding to live compassionately. The history, spirit, and principles of our UU faith clearly call upon us to grow bigger, more inclusive hearts. Being a UU means daily lending yourself and your soul to the building of a gentler, more humane world. Most often not in grand, glorious, heroic feats like those accomplished by great human saints, but in little everyday ways that have the power to transform our world, one caring, responsible deed at a time. Now, please don't be intimidated. Being serious about your Unitarian Universalism means that you simply strive to make a positive, principled difference right where you live in your little cluttered corner of life, in all the everyday ways that count. Our religious, well and responsibly lived looks like everyday examples expressed through the sermon. Being a UU is not about single-handedly raising to the level of noble sainthood, like UU Clara Barton, founding the Red Cross in the Civil War, or Theodore Parker, protecting runaway slaves with his loaded pistol, nor Reverend James Rebb dying in the streets of Salem. It's about being a caring, authentic person, living the beliefs and values that grow in your life's center. For some months, the CLF staff has been discussing a process for helping members get more intentional and serious about their religious life. In the coming months, we will share materials with you that help articulate to yourself what you now believe is a UU. Remember, beliefs and values can do and change over a lifetime, but at any given point in life, you can clearly express that to which you have loyalty. Assess the ways in which you already live your Unitarian Universalism. Identify new ways in which you want to express your religion and ethical commitments. Take the necessary steps to fulfill your commitments. It is our hope that you will choose to utilize this process for becoming more intentionally about walking your Unitarian Universalist walk, to take Unitarian Universalism seriously by visibly living it. I close with an affirmation from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro, North Carolina. Being a Unitarian Universalist means taking personal responsibility for your own religious life. No one will try to remake you religiously. We won't offer you final and absolute truths or rigid dogma. Instead, we try to provide a stimulating and congenial atmosphere in which you may seek answers, in which you may ask new answers, new questions, in which you are free to discover the best that is in you. Reject the idea that a book or an institution is superior to the conscience and intellect of a morally responsible person. We affirm that your spiritual well-being is yours to determine. Amen. All right, I'm gonna need some help, Alec. Okay, because I couldn't find the one that was filled in. Here we go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Our closing hymn is The Fire of Commitment. Those in the sanctuary, sit back, close your eyes, and listen quietly.
From the light of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of the living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Our benediction today. Ancient as the home is the temple. Ancient as the workbench is the altar. Ancient as the sword is the sacrificial fire. Ancient soldier is the priest. Older than written language is spoken prayer. Older than painting is the thought of a nameless one. Religion is first and last the universal language of the human heart. Differing words describe the outward appearance of things. Diverse symbols represent that which stands beyond and within. Yet each person's hunger is the same, and heart communicates with heart. Ever the vision leads on with many gods or with one, with the Holy Land washed by ocean waters, or a holy land within the heart. In temperament we differ, yet we are dedicated to one august destiny. Creeds divide us, but we share a common quest. Because we are human, we shall ever build our altars. Because each has a holy yearning, we offer everywhere our prayers and anthems. For an eternal verity abides beneath diversities. We are children of one great love, united in our one eternal family. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. Thank you, Reverend Alexander, for your contribution to UUA, and Linda for reading. We're going to have a small discussion following the service to share our thoughts. Be aware this will be included on the video that is posted. Are there questions or comments about today's sermon? I have a question. I'll just do it from here. I'd be interested if people would share the ways in which being UU changes your life, or actions you take because of being UU. I'd love to hear what people's reactions to that.
Pat, this is Tinka.
Hi, Tinka.
Hi. I had so many things that this service really moved me.
Me too.
I get really emotional whenever I hear, as the minister mentioned, that people think of Unitarian Universalism as some convenient, default, that if you want to have a religion, but you really don't want to do anything or believe anything, then, pick Unitarianism. Because I feel that it's a religion with deep, deep roots. It's a religion with deep caring of freedom and of and equality, and as was mentioned, I think Linda mentioned James Reeb in the Reverend's talk, and so we have these two, I guess you would say, modern martyrs who died for their belief, the belief in our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of all people. So, and the march on Selma, James Reeb, who was a UU minister, was killed after the second march. It took 3 times before they actually could make it across the bridge. And he was killed right after the second attempt. And then Viola Liunzo, who was murdered right after the third, when they finally succeeded and was able to go across the bridge and march all the way to Montgomery. And she was helping to bring ferry people back, because they had marched to Montgomery. So she was trying to ferry people back to Selma. And on one of those attempts, she was murdered. And so there are more than we think, or more than we know, I believe, people who put themselves out there for their beliefs, and I would say that the first one, and it's the one that's hardest for me, actually, is our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of all people. It's easy for me to say that people for whom I feel are being mistreated, minority groups, immigrants, that to be there at their inherent worth and dignity. It's a lot harder for me when it's the people who are abusing others, people who are, denying others their rights. That's harder for me to have such an open heart, to them. And yet my faith calls me to do that. And so that is something that there are times in which I do struggle to do that. When the Reverend also talked about sort of being an evangelist, and I feel that I am within my faith. I have, Nick and I, when we were at the General Assembly in Salt Lake City, Nick bought me my Chalice necklace for my birthday, and I wear it constantly. I never take it off. I mean, I sleep in it, I bathe in it, I never take it off. I have it when I travel. And one of the things is because people will ask me, oh, well, that's such a pretty necklace, what is it? And I use that as an opportunity to talk about my faith, to talk about this religion, which has such depth to it. It is not, I don't see it as a surface religion at all. I see it as one of great depth. And when you, Pat, when you read the closing benediction, there was a phrase from that that really, for me, kind of sums up what this is and what I strive for. And that was the phrase, holy land within the heart. And I feel that that is indeed what Unitarian Universalism is. It is the holy land within our heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Tinka.
Also, I'd like to thank Linda for sharing. I'd also like to thank Linda for sharing, but also I wanted to share Lee's question from the Zoom chat, who says his question for all of us is, what is the best way for us to explore, to take seriously our spirituality within the freedom that UUism gives us? And I think I can give my thoughts to that, as well as the answer to your question about what I do on a daily basis, in that for me, it's a lot about thinking about my interpersonal relationships with other people. For me, the second principle, I think, is the one that most often comes to mind: the use of justice, equity, and compassion in our human relations, and the need to remind myself of that every single person's perspective is valuable and something that I can learn from, and that I need to be able to understand and take that in, which is, again, relating back to that first principle that Tinka was talking about, that really coming to terms with the fact that we all are part of this, all sort of in this together. But I think it also, it's also that call to action that we've talked about. You know, the one thing that we're compelled, sort of, we find these things in our hearts. When how do we be free to search these, to search through the spirituality? How do we take that seriously when you're sort of allowed to believe anything? And I found that as I just go about this world that we live in, I find that there are things that call to me that I cannot deny, because they compel me in some way. They compel me to care about food insecurity, for instance, or they compel me to want to investigate where is God in this universe, and they make me want to pursue those things. And part of it is a process of taking that self-calling seriously.
Thank you, Hank. Linda, come here.
I would like to answer the question that was asked as to how we learn more about UU and our religion and our faith, and how can we get serious about it. And I think, I know that COVID has limited us in many, many ways this last couple of years, but as things open and close up, there are things here that we have seemed to lost. We do have opportunities to get together as UUs and not only socialize, but talk about who we are and the direction we want to go. I know it's been a couple years since the board has had an opportunity to sit down and say, okay, this year, this community that we have in Riverside is going to have focus on these things, because actually normally that's a thing that we've done in the past. So COVID has really thrown us, but I'm going to throw some things out there that I don't know how comfortable people are. I know that you show up on Zoom and that's awesome, and show up in the church, but when we look around, we're not really doing anything anymore. There are committees that still are active. The Social Justice Committee is meeting today, and you can join that by Zoom. That's one of the key things that this church has always done. We do have the opportunity, and I know we don't have it through Zoom, but we do have the opportunity, if you can, well, it's a lot easier to stay home and sit in front of your TV or your computer and drink your coffee. We can show up here. And we have an opportunity after church to talk to each other. And there was a thing called chat time that's dissolved as well, is where we got together, and the purpose of it was to talk about the sermon in the first place, and from that move on to other, hopefully, aspects of our life that involve UUism and how they reflect on us and each other. And that was an opportunity to talk about those things. So I would like to see that revolved as well. We could create book groups that we can read together, either on Zoom or as a group here, in regards to things that are happening in the world that UU or the principals or the city needs focused on. We can get together, we can read those books, and we can talk about them. And how can we work together as individuals to grow us spiritually and in our souls. So I think it's a matter of, at this point in time, we really have to work on stepping up and actually being UUs. We're not doing that real well, and haven't in the last year or so. I mean, that's the truth. So there is a social committee, justice committee, there's a board meeting or the church council meeting. If you want to know what the church is doing, you can either get the board minutes, or you can show up, or you can do Zoom, find out what actions are going on in those two areas. The church council has a lot to do with all of the different committees that are going on or not going on, and what can be done. So there is the Lunar Fest at the end of this month. We can use people to help sort books. Also, we could help people to come sell books during those times. So if you're interested in that, contact Kate Lewicki, who is graciously offered to lead this, this fundraiser. Also, we are looking at, can we have a yard sale this year? Because there is a challenge in that there is a lot of physical work involved in a yard sale, as well as the selling. And as small as we've gotten, we don't have a lot of hands to be able to do that. So maybe if you can't do it, we could have a yard sale if you talk to your neighbor and ask them to help us to move things or bring things or pick up things for us. I know none of us are really isolated, and we know people out there who are good friends who, if we ask them, would help. We just need to get in there and participate and be there. And I think we could do a lot more for this church.
We're coming up on 10 or 15 minutes now, so if there's one last comment or question, perhaps we'll have that, and then we'll break for coffee hour.
Thank you all for attending.